Attached, to be involved doesn't mean that you're going to be attached. And to be detached doesn't mean that you're going to be unconcerned and insensitive about your surrounding. So the perfect detachment is a state in which we are deeply involved and concerned about the well-being of every person around you. At the same time, you know the truth. What is this thing that you're dealing with? This is the art of living life, which Krishna beautifully tells in the 3rd chapter. How are we going to live in this mysterious world? Padma patra mivambasa. Just like a lotus leaf floating on the water. The lotus leaf is floating on the water, and the water can never stick to the leaf. You just give a little push to the leaf, and all the water drops away. The leaf is always clean of water. The water cannot stick to it. Similarly, just like the leaf is always in the water, but unstuck to the water. Similarly, we are always in this world, and yet we are absolutely unstuck to it. Nowhere we are attached to it. You're deeply involved and concerned about the welfare of everybody. Your whole life is given to the good of others, and yet you know the true nature of what you're dealing with. This is the art of living, which Krishna so beautifully expounds in his Bhagavad Gita. There is no greater book as far as the art of living is concerned than this wonderful book called Bhagavad Gita, the greatest work ever produced in the human history. Beautiful, the comprehensive philosophy of life. What should be the philosophy of life? That is what we find in the Gita. In this way, Krishna says, once we have got this competence and eligibility, once we have developed this wonderful virtue of detachment, we have learned to remain on the banks of the stream of life, not straightaway diving into the waters of sensory things. Once you have learned this art of remaining like a witness and yet deeply involved, once you have developed this capacity, then you become fit to start the search for that supreme reality. That is what Krishna says. Once you have uprooted this world through the weapon of detachment, then tata tat padam parimargitavyam. So beautiful. Tat padam parimargitavyam. Then you start that search for that supreme padam, that supreme reality. Now just tell me, as long as we are deeply attached to this changing dimension, what is the question of starting the search for the supreme reality? We are all talking about God, attaining God, realizing God. This cannot happen unless we have developed this virtue of non-attachment. That is the basic line, the basic requirement is a little bit of sense of detachment from this so-called transitory plane. Then we begin fit to institute our search for the supreme reality. Tatapadam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuya, reaching which no one comes back. So, with this great competence, we start our search for the supreme reality. And then what is the nature of the supreme reality that we are looking for? What is the nature of the supreme reality, this God we are talking about? What is our own true nature? Bhagavan Krishna is saying, na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. That is my supreme abode. What is that, my supreme abode? It says, na tad bhasayate suryo. The sun cannot illuminate. Na shashanko, na pavakaha, nor the moon, nor the fire. That is my true. Means Bhagavan Krishna is referring to an absolutely trans-sensory plane, where none of these so-called radiant objects of the sensory world. Sun is one of the radiant objects of the sensory world. Moon is one of the radiant objects of the sensory world. What he means to say that none of these radiance of the sensory world can illumine that. In fact, it is in the light of that reality all these objects are illumined. So that is that supreme reality. That is the nature of that supreme reality which we are looking for. Then he takes up another very important issue. See, that is the beauty of this chapter. One after the other, Krishna touches upon all the important points of this Vaidika Hindu Dharma. The nature of the supreme reality, it is like this. The true nature of the world, it is like this. Now, what about you and me? If that supreme reality is of this kind, it is totally transcendent, from where have you and I come about? What is my true nature and what is your true nature? Who is this individual soul? Who is this human being? Who is this man? Who is this woman? So beautiful. Bhagavan Krishna says, what is this human being? Mama eva anshaha. Mama evansho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. That is the true nature of this individual soul. So what is this individual soul? Who is this human being, this man and the woman? The man and the woman is Mama eva ansha. Just see, he is talking about our connection with him. Now those who are the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, we look upon God as Sri Ramakrishna. So what is our connection with Sri Ramakrishna? We are all Sri Ramakrishna's anshaha. Inseparable connection. This is what has to be understood. The connection between the individual soul and the God in a certain form. For somebody it can be Sri Ramakrishna. For someone it can be Krishna. For other person it can be Ram. It can be Shiva. It can be Kali. It can be Durga. That doesn't matter. But essentially it is a striving to understand our connection with that supreme reality. How are we connected to that supreme reality? Bhagavan Krishna is saying, Mama eva anshaha. Just imagine our connection with divinity. It is always there, only we have not understood it. And because we have not understood it, we are unendingly suffering in life. As long as we don't understand our connection with God, we are miserable. You may have any amount of money in your bank, but the man is miserable as long as he is not understanding his connection with divinity. That's it. So who is this Jiva? He is Mama eva anshaha. Such a beautiful term it is. You're my ansha, my child. Krishna is saying, you're my ansha, you're my part. And explaining this further, Bhagavan Sri Shankaracharya so beautifully says, what is the meaning of this Mama eva anshaha? He gives two beautiful examples there, illustrations. One illustration is, just imagine, just up in the sky, we have the sun shining there. And on the ground, if you have 20 different pots filled with water. Now the sun which is shining in the sky, it gets reflected in all those waters in different pots. It is as if the sun has entered into the small pot. Actually speaking, can that sun be limited to the pot? It is unlimited. But because of a reflecting medium, it appears as if it has entered into that reflecting medium. Now, what is the connection between that reflection and that sun which is getting reflected in the reflecting medium? What is the relationship? That is exactly the relationship between we and God. It is God which is getting reflected in this reflecting medium of body and mind. This body and mind is just a reflecting medium. It is just a reflector in which that sun-like supreme reality is getting reflected everywhere. Now that supreme sun can be looked upon as Rama, as Krishna, as Shiva, as Ramakrishna, doesn't matter. But what we need to understand is our connection with that. Now those who have read Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you will find Sri Ramakrishna will always, and if some devotee comes to Sri Ramakrishna will say, how do you look upon me? What is your connection with me? Do you know that? He asked this question in this Gospel of, so beautiful. He wants you to establish his connection, your connection with him. He who is Parabrahma, know that Mama eva anshaha, you are not just small puny creature. In you I am reflected. Know this. So beautiful. In you, in each one of us, that supreme divinity is reflected. In every pot, in the water of every pot, that supreme sun is reflected. What will happen if that reflected sun begins to search for its own source? Where will it end up? That is the question. It will end up in the supreme sun. Similarly, when we begin this search for our own source, you are bound to end up in God. We are inseparably connected with God. To say that we are inseparably connected with God is also a secondary or a lower statement. The real truth is that we are non-separate from it. There is, actually speaking, there is not the slightest gap between God and yourself. This is Bhagavat Tattva Jnanam. There is no space, separation there. A sense of separation from God is the creation of ignorance. That is what is Advaita. So beautiful. There is no spatial separation from that supreme reality and us. It is one reality everywhere. All these are just reflectors. This world itself is a reflector where that supreme reality is getting reflected. So this jiva is what? Mama eva anshaha. Now, what happens when we don't know about it? As long as we are ignorant about our own true connection with God, we are into a miserable fate and destiny. And what is that miserable fate and destiny? Birth and rebirth, birth and rebirth, birth and rebirth. Here comes another great idea, the idea of reincarnation. See, one after the other, Krishna is touching upon crucial points of Hindu Sanatana Dharma. This idea of reincarnation is a typical idea of the Vedic Sanatana Dharma, which you won't find in other systems. It is so scientific. This idea of birth and rebirth, this goes on as long as this individual soul doesn't understand his or her connection with God. Bhagavan Shankaracharya so beautifully and so emphatically sings this wonderful song. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Iha samsare kaludustare, kripaya pare pai murari. So beautiful. Again birth, again death, again birth, again death. How many times that has been going on? Again and again we are entering into the mother's womb. As long as we don't understand our connection with God, this is the fate of the living being. So what? Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Mudamati, Prapte Sannihite Marane, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Tunkarinkarne. So beautiful. Nothing else is going to save you apart from realizing your connection with God. Bhaja Govindam means what? Realize your connection with God. Realize, experience your connection with God. That alone can save you. As long as you have not found your connection with God, you are in a miserable state. So, Bhaja Govindam. Strive to find it. It is like telling the reflected sun to understand your connection with the true sun. If that reflected sun understands its connection with the Supreme Sun, its problem is over. Otherwise, it is again and again birth and rebirth, birth and rebirth. And how this rebirth takes place, Sri Krishna beautifully hints at. Here a small hint is given. In the Upanishads, you will find that this topic of reincarnation very graphically described. Beautiful. Very graphic description, what happens at the time of death and how the soul departs from one body to the other body. So Krishna is just touching upon that point here. He is saying that Utkramantam, it says that Shariram yadavapnoti yachapyut utkramati ishvara grihitvaitani sanyati vayur gandhan iva ashayat manashasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. He says Shariram yad avapnoti. When at the time of assuming a new body and at the time of giving up of the old body. What happens in the rebirth? What happens at the time of death? At the time of death, what happens is we give up this old body and we assume a new body. Vasansi jiranani yatha vihaya navani granhati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jiranani anyani sanyati navani dehi. So beautiful. Krishna says, just like every day we are changing our old clothes. Every day after taking bath, we change our old clothes and we put on new clothes. Similarly, the soul is giving up the old body, dilapidated, useless body is being given up at the time of death, and he takes up a new body. Actually speaking, Krishna is saying, what is that to grieve? Why are you grieving over death? There is nothing to grieve about. We make a big issue about death. It is nothing. Nothing is happening to the soul. The soul is immortal. It is just an external crust which is being left behind, and a new body is assumed. Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras tatra na muhyati. Just like this individual soul assumes a new body, becomes a teenager, a young man, grows old and gives up that body and assumes another body. What is that to grieve in that? Krishna is asking. He is making death look so simple, which actually is a big issue for us. We make it a big issue. Somebody passes away, means we know what happens in society. But if you have the true vision of what is happening in death, it is just like you change your garments every day. How many such garments we have changed? So Krishna says, what is that to grieve about it? Come on. What a beautiful vision comes out of it. So here Krishna is talking about this idea of reincarnation. As long as we have not established our connection with the divinity, this process of death and rebirth goes on. Endlessly it goes on. And how does it happen? At the time of death, this individual soul draws to itself the mind and the sense organs. Just like the wind which blows carries with it the fragrance of the different flowers. It is the illustration which is given here. If you all remember, I'm not going into the details of that now. But Krishna is saying, just like the wind which blows carries the different fragrance of the different flowers, similarly this individual soul is drawing to itself the mind and the sense organs, leaves the gross body and gets into another gross body. This is the phenomenon of rebirth. And this will go on as long as we have not established our connection with the Supreme Reality. Now, when all this is happening, Krishna says, some people can see God in all these different events of life. Most of the people cannot see it. Again, he is talking about two kinds of people. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudha nanupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Wonderful. See, these are the things to be developed in human life. Vimudha nanupashyanti. Vimudha means a person who is deluded and a person who is ignorant. The ignorant, deluded man who has assumed this world to be absolutely real, who has never questioned into what is actually real and what is appearing to be real, that foolish man, that deluded man, ignorant man, though God is present in everything, he cannot see God. Whereas Jnana Chakshusha, a person whose eyes of Jnana, his inner eyes is open, for that man, Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam. No matter what he is experiencing in life, whether when he is alive and when he is dealing with the world, or whether at the time of death, he can see clearly the presence of God in everything. He clearly understands that it is the reflection of the sun which is getting reflected in everything that is happening. Shankaracharya says, no dealing is possible without the presence of that Supreme Reality. Even now, whatever is happening, it is God and God and God alone. Nothing else but God alone, which is making this dealing possible. Somebody is talking and somebody is listening. It is nothing but God and God alone. Is God somewhere far away? He is the closest to us. And yet, vimudhana anupashyanti. The foolish man, the deluded man, he cannot see it. But pashyanti jnana chakshusha. A person whose inner eye is open, that person can see God in every situation of life. Now just imagine if this comes into our lives. If this jnana chakshu is opened up, what a revolution it is going to be in human life. It will be a revolution. Literally, this is the real revolution waiting to happen in human life. Presently, we are totally ignorant about the greatest reality in life. And when that reality becomes a matter of direct perception in everything that we are doing and dealing, just imagine what will happen. Pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Yatanto yoginaschainam pashyantyatmanyavastitam yatanto api akritatmano nainam pashyanti achetasaha. Achetasaha akritatmano. 2 words. A mind which is impure, or a person who is just given into the sensory world, who is fully into the sensory world, that person will never understand this truth. Impossible. So in a person whose mind is impure, he will not be able to see it. At the same time, a person whose mind is pure, he will be able to see it. You see? This is the central meaning of that verse. Yatanto yoginas chainam pashyanti atmanyavastitam. That person will be able to see it clearly. In everything, that person can see the presence of divinity. His mind is so clear and he can understand it so clearly. But the foolish man, the deluded man, he cannot understand that. Then finally, towards the end of this chapter, Krishna touches upon 2 points. This God which we are talking about, which the deluded man cannot see, but the wise man sees. What is this God? This God is pervading this entire creation. And it is also beyond this creation. It is immanent as well as it is transcendent. So in the 4 verses, Krishna is beautifully describing the all-pervasive nature of the Supreme Reality. How it is that this Supreme Reality which is manifested in everything, and how it is that Supreme Reality which is present in every empirical dealing that we are having in our lives. It is without this presence of this God, nothing can happen in life. Such a beautiful thing. It is 3 points. Shankaracharya says, the all-pervasive nature of the Supreme Reality, and how it is this God alone which is manifested everywhere, and it is the presence of God which makes all the empirical dealings possible. That Krishna beautifully describes in 4 beautiful verses. It says, Yad adityagatam tejo jagad bhasayate kilam yad chandramasi yad chagno tat tejo vidhi mamakam gama vishyacha bhutani dharayami ahamojusa pushnami chaushati sarva somo bhutva rasatmakaha aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam dehamashrita pranapano samayukta pachami annam chaturvidham sarvasya chaham ridisannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvairahameva vedyo vedantakrit veda videva chaham. In these 4 verses, Bhagavan Krishna is beautifully describing the all-pervasive nature of the Supreme Reality. Krishna is saying that the radiance of the sun, the radiance of the moon, the radiance of the fire, everything is my radiance. I have entered into the earth, and it is I who am holding all the creatures. I am nourishing all the plants through the juice of all juices, which is referred to as soma. And he says that I am seated in the heart of, before that he says, I have become the digestive fire in all the living creatures. The digestive fire which is there in our belly, it is God in a certain form. And I am digesting all kinds of food which the creatures are eating. The eater is God, the eaten is God, the seer is God, the seen is God, the knower is God, the known is God. There is nothing existing apart from God. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, anyone who eats the food with this knowledge, who is the eater and who is the eaten, the defects of that food never can touch that person. Eating doesn't mean only eating through the mouth. We are eating through all the different 5 sense organs. We are eating through the eyes. We are eating through the ears. We are taking food from all the different holes of the sensory system, and it is determining the quality of the human mind. That's why we have to be very careful about what we are actually eating, not only through the mouth, but also through all the different sense organs. This is the real religious life. It is a totally different kind of a life which is led for a very high, lofty purpose, lifting the life to a very high plane of consciousness. So Krishna says, in this way, it is I who am pervading everything, the all-pervasive nature of the Supreme Reality, and it is God which is manifested in everything, and it is God that is present in all the empirical dealings, the immanence of God. Then it is this very God which is beyond all the creation. Dvavimau purusho loke ksharaschaksare evacha ksharas sarvani bhutani kutasto kshara uchyate uttama purushastvanya paramatmeti udaratah yo lokatrayamavishya bibharti avyaya ishvarah. Krishna again, he divides this entire existence into 3 categories. One is Kshara category, other is Akshara category, and the third one is the Purushottama, the Supreme Reality. The Kshara category is what we are experiencing through the senses. This changing dimension. This changing dimension is what is known as Kshara. The cause of this changing dimension is what is referred to as Akshara. The cause of this changing dimension is Akshara. Akshara is Maya. And beyond this changing and the cause, Maya, is the Purushottama, who is transcendent to both these dimensions. The absolute existence. That is what is referred to as God. Now finally he says, in this way Krishna beautifully presents this whole picture. See, we have touched upon all vital points of the Vedas, actually speaking. He says, Yo mam evam asammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavit bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Beautiful. Anyone who knows me in this way, asammudhaha, a man who is freed from all delusion, who knows me in this way, the way I have spoken, who knows the Supreme Reality, who knows the true nature of this world, who knows what this individual soul is, and who knows the real connection of this individual soul with that Supreme Reality. That man, asammudha, a man who is freed from all delusion, who knows the reality as it is, not leading a life of delusion. He sees clearly the divinity and God working in everything, who sees God and God alone. That is the meaning of asammudha. Janati, one who knows. With this janati comes bhajati. With the supreme knowledge comes bhajanam, devotion. What a beautiful thing it is. Supreme knowledge and supreme devotion are the same thing. Supreme jnana and supreme bhakti, they are the same things. Yo mam evam asammudho janati. One who knows the Supreme Reality, what will happen? Sa sarvavit, he will become all-knowing. Because God alone is existing. So one who knows God, he knows everything. Is there anything which is not God? Then a person who knows this, he becomes all-knowing. He becomes omniscient. He becomes sarvavit. And bhajati mam. He will be now, for him everything is adorable. Now he will be continuously adoring God in so many forms. Now see, this is the great transformation of the human being. What a revolutionary transformation it is. What is our present state of mind? We are so miserable. We are so miserable as long as we are seeing the man, the woman, the good and the bad, the saint and the sinner. And this whole drama is going on without knowing what is behind all these things. Now when this vision dawns in the human mind, that it is one God which is playing in all these forms, for that person, life itself becomes a continuous act of adoration and veneration of the divine. Bhajati Mam. Supreme Bhakti and Supreme Gyan, they are two sides of the same coin, which Ramakrishna keeps on talking about. And see what Bhagavan Krishna is saying. And this you can see in the lives of all the great masters. They had the supreme Advaitic knowledge and they were the greatest devotees also. Sri Ramakrishna, Bhagavan Shankaracharya, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, all of them were like this. Supreme knowledge coupled with supreme devotion. What devotion? Everything is divine. For them, everything is adorable. Everything is venerable. Now, this is the kind of transformation that is waiting to happen in our human life. Now, this is how, in 15th chapter, Bhagavan Krishna says that I have told you the most secret scripture, Guhyatamam Shastram. And anyone who knows this, not through intellect, but through experience, that person will become kritakritya, fulfilled. That person has done the thing which he is supposed to do at the human plane of existence. So this was the summary of this 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, a beautiful chapter. I would suggest one thing, all of you should go back and read Swami Vivekananda's paper on Hinduism, which comes in the first volume of the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. Please read it. Swami Vivekananda spoke about what Hinduism is in the Chicago Parliament of Religions. Now you see, what is this 15th chapter and what Swami Vivekananda is talking about Hinduism. Every point that we have discussed here, Swami Vivekananda is keeping it point by point, point by point, point by point. Please go back and read Paper on Hinduism, Volume 1, Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda. So let's stop here. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti Hari Om Tat Sat.